Hello friends, welcome to my channel, and in this today's session we are going to discuss about the anatomy of the duodenum, also known as dodecadactylos. That is the Latin corruption of the Greek word the dodecadactylos, which is now known as duodenum. The literal meaning of it is 12 fingers breadth. So why we should know about duodenum? In this picture here, in the above picture, you can see duodenum is a site where there is normal flow of the digestive fluids, and it's a site of digestion and absorption. And in case of duodenal atresia, a developmental anomaly, there will be collection of these all digestive fluids leading to the double bubble sign on the X-ray that you can see there. You can see the stomach on the right side, duodenum on the left side, and a constricted part between them. And duodenum is also a common site of ulcer that is called as duodenal ulcer, a kind of peptic ulcer there. So you can see the proximal part of duodenum is most commonly involved there, and in the endoscopy it will look like this. The duodenal ulcers, you can see over there circular folds. So, and duodenum is in close relation with the pancreas. Whatever you can see in the yellow color structure, that is pancreas. And you can see the duodenum is forming a C-shaped loop around the head of the pancreas, and this relation with the pancreas is very important. As you can notice here, Manohar Parrikar and Steve Jobs, any guesses what is common between them? They both suffered from the pancreatic carcinoma pancreas. Okay, so why I'm talking about pancreas here? The carcinoma of the head of the pancreas may push the lumen of the part of the duodenum there. So the anatomy of duodenum, its relations, its parts become very important to understand all these pathologies and diseases. We have to see the duodenum under following headings: introduction, location, shape, parts, measurements and relations of each part, neurovascular supply, development and histology, and lastly the applied aspects. Some of them we have already discussed, few more we will discuss in the end. So let us begin with the duodenum. As you can see here, you can notice duodenum is a C-shaped tube. It is the first and widest part of the small intestine, and it is the most mobile part. Remember that. Or you can say it is the least mobile part. One of the first part of duodenum is mobile part. So it is the widest and fixed part of the small intestine. As I already told you, it is a C-shaped tube, measures about 10 inch in the length, that is around 25 centimeter in the length. It has 4 parts. So already I told you, duodenum means dodecadactylos, Greek meaning the 10 fingers breadth. It has got 4 parts. The first part is horizontal and measures around 5 centimeter in length. Second part is vertical and measures around 8 centimeter in length. Third part is again horizontal, measures around 10 centimeter. Fourth part is oblique, measures around an inch in length. So you can see the 4 parts there. First part is horizontal, that you can see here. First part is horizontal till the superior duodenal flexure. Second part is vertical, extending from superior duodenal flexure to inferior duodenal flexure. Third part is horizontal, 10 centimeter in length, and fourth part is oblique. So these are the 4 parts, and you can see most of the duodenum is on the right side of the median plane, extending from L1 to L3. The first part, second part are on the right side. The second part is more posterior compared to the first part and third part. Third part is more related to the anterior abdominal wall. So you can notice here. So let us see in the animation where the duodenum is located. As we have already discussed, it occupies the epigastric and umbilical regions, and you already know The duodenum is divided into 9 regions by 2 vertical and 2 horizontal planes. You can see here. So duodenum lies in the epigastric, partly in the epigastric, most of it lies in the umbilical region, and you can notice there it is covered by, when you open the anteromentum wall, it is covered by the greater omentum and transverse colon with mesocolon, and this is a C-shaped widest and most fixed part of the small intestine. Most of the duodenum is retroperitoneal. Only the proximal half of first part is peritoneal. Remember that. Otherwise, the entire duodenum is retroperitoneal. You can notice here it is having the C part, and when you open the anteroabdominal wall and take out the greater omentum, transverse colon with mesocolon, and left lobe of liver, here you can see the C-shaped duodenum extending from the pylorus of the stomach till here. So this much is the duodenum. Here you can see head of the pancreas. It extends from L1 to L3. Most of it lies on the right side. You can see on surface topography it lies on more posterior plane because it is retroperitoneal, and you can see there root of mesentery in front of the third part, suspending the coils of jejunum and ileum. You can notice there. So duodenum is a part of GIT, part of small intestine, extending between the gastroduodenal junction till the duodenojejunal flexure. From here till here it is there. You can notice, and you can see here in the C-shaped concavity of the duodenum, you are noticing the head of the pancreas, and this is the continuation till here, DJ flexure. This is the duodenum located in the umbilical region and partly in the epigastric region, that is DJ flexure, where duodenum continues as the jejunum. And I already told you it is the most widest fixed part of the small intestine. Only first half of first part of duodenum is mobile, and you can see the bile staining there. There is a postmortem bile staining coming from the gallbladder underneath the liver. First part, second part, third part, and fourth part. You can notice first part is horizontal 5 cm in length, second part is vertical around 8 to 10 cm in length, third part is horizontal around 10 cm in length, fourth part is oblique around 2.5 cm in length. So you can call it as 1, 2, 3, 4 or horizontal, vertical, horizontal and oblique parts. The first part is directed upwards, backwards and towards right. Second part is vertical, third part is horizontal, fourth part is oblique. So first part is directed upwards, backwards and towards right. So it is 5 cm in length, but on surface topography it measures around only an inch because it is directed upwards, backwards towards the right side, on the right side of the L1 vertebra, and you can notice there head of the pancreas with the anastomus of the vessels, and there is a opening of the common bile duct and pancreatic duct in the second part. And coming to the parts of the duodenum, first the superior part, it is the most mobile portion or first half of the first part. This part is only responsible for the formation of duodenal cap on the contrast barium meal radiogram. You can notice there the first part shows like a cap here. First part shows like a cap, that is what you are seeing, that is duodenal cap on the barium meal. Coming to the relations, being the horizontal part, it is covered with the peritoneum of the greater sac and also partly the lesser sac or lesser omentum, what you can say, and anterior is related to the quadrate lobe of the liver, neck and body of the gallbladder. Here you can notice the liver, neck and body of the gallbladder. So it has anterior, superior, inferior and posterior relations. Superiorly it is attached to the hepatoduodenal part of the lesser omentum, upper border. The proximal half of the upper border gives attachment to the hepatoduodenal part of lesser omentum, and it also forms the floor of the epiploic foramina. What is epiploic foramina? Foramina of Winslow. It connects greater sac with the lesser sac. You can see there. Here is the epiploic foramina, and here you can see the lesser omentum here, and here this is the hepatoduodenal part of the lesser omentum related to the first half of the first part. The entire thing is first part. So upper border gives attachment to the hepatoduodenal part of lesser omentum, and below it is related to the head and neck of the pancreas, and also to the layers of greater omentum. And posteriorly it is related to the structures in the free margin of lesser omentum. Those are bile duct, inferior vena cava, portal vein, gastroduodenal artery, that is related there. So these are the structures you can see there. Anteriorly you can notice the gallbladder. Posteriorly you can see the portal vein, common bile duct, gastroduodenal artery, and on a more posterior plane you can see inferior vena cava also, because epiploic foramina lies between the portal vein and inferior vena cava. And you can see here one more picture depicting the posterior relations of the first part. The bile duct, portal vein and the gastroduodenal artery. Behind the portal vein, separated by epiploic foramina, you can see the inferior vena cava. And coming to the interior of the first part, the mucous membrane of the first part is devoid of the circular folds that you typically see in the duodenum or small intestine. The modification, circular folds, they are absent there. And coming to the blood supply of the first part, unlike the other parts of the duodenum, the first part is supplied by the end arteries. That means it is more prone for necrosis resulting in ulcers. It is supplied by three arteries: supraduodenal and infraduodenal, branches of the gastroduodenal artery, and retroduodenal, which is a branch of right gastroepiploic artery. And right gastroepiploic artery is a branch of the gastroduodenal, which is a branch of common hepatic, which is a branch of celiac trunk. Coming to the peculiarities, as we already told, we discussed here, this is the most mobile part of the duodenum. Remaining part is fixed, supplied by end arteries, means there is no anastomosis, and it is a common site of peptic ulcer due to end arteries. And two more peculiarities, it is devoid of circular folds, the first part, and it shows a duodenal cap on the contrast x-ray, that is barium meal, that we have already discussed. And coming to the animation here, you can notice stomach is continuing as duodenum, and if you see the first part there, it is related to the gallbladder there, neck and body of the gallbladder. And you can also notice the visceral surface of liver, it is related to that. If you try to isolate here, you can notice here we are trying to isolate liver, gallbladder and the duodenum along with the lesser omentum. Lesser omentum has two parts, hepatogastric and hepatoduodenal. You can notice there. Yes, here you can notice the anterior relations of the first part related to the gallbladder and liver there. Which part of liver? Quadrate lobe on the visceral surface of the liver. And you can notice the proximal half is giving attachment to the hepatoduodenal part of the lesser omentum there. You can notice here, and here you can see this is the quadrate lobe of liver, like a quadrangle. That's what is called as quadrate lobe. And coming to the posterior relations, and here you can see along the lower border it is attached to the greater omentum about the lesser omentum. So these are the anterior, superior and inferior relations that you are seeing here. As you go posteriorly, here you are seeing these structures here. If you zoom in here, posterior to first part, that is the common bile duct, that is hepatic artery, this is portal vein. Behind that portal vein you are seeing the big vein, that is inferior vena cava, that is inferior vena cava, that is what you are noticing there. So here you can see the epiploic foramina in the right free margin of the lesser omentum. And if you go here, go on more posterior plane, you will see there. So here you can see in the specimen they have removed the left lobe of liver to expose the lesser omentum there. You can see how do you identify the first part in the cadaver. There is a post-mortem bile staining, not in the living, remember that. You can see the first part is this much superior and directed upwards, backwards and towards right. It is 5 centimeter in length, but surface topography is only 2.5 centimeter because of this obliquity. And you can notice there the finger is going through the this epiploic foramina. So this is the right free margin of the lesser omentum. This is the hepatoduodenal part. Here only you will see the portal vein and the hepatic artery and common bile duct in the right free margin of the lesser omentum. Behind that you will see the epiploic foramina will be here. So coming to the second part, already we have discussed, it is about 8 to 10 centimeter in length. It is vertical, extend from the superior duodenal flexure, the junction between the first and second part, and runs downwards with a with the rightward convexity. It lies on the more posterior plane compared to the remaining of the duodenum. And you can see there, yes, here you can see the second part here, superior duodenal flexure to inferior duodenal flexure with a rightward convexity on the side of the vertebral column or paravertebral gutter, we say paravertebral gutter in the space. So it lies on a more posterior plane compared to the remainder of the duodenum. Coming to the relations, as I already told you, it is non-peritoneal in the middle because it is crossed by the transverse colon. Above and below it is covered by the peritoneum. So the anteriorly it is crossed by the this transverse colon here, transverse colon, and you can see the fundus of the gallbladder, and part of the liver is also related, and below it is related to the coils of jejunum. So this is the second part you are seeing. So it is non-peritoneal in the middle where it is crossed by the transverse colon. You can see these are the relations: gallbladder, right lobe of liver, transverse colon with mesocolon, and coils of intestine below the colon. And here again you can notice in the section, this second part, you can see the fundus of the gallbladder. The body and neck are related to the first part here, whereas the remainder is related to the fundus of the gallbladder. And you can notice here it is non-peritoneal in the middle because there is transverse colon going in front, suspended by the transverse mesocolon, and above and below it is peritoneal. Above it is related to the fundus of the gallbladder and right lobe of liver, below to the coils of intestine. So these all are the anterior relations. That is second part. On the right side you are seeing right colic flexure. On the left side you are seeing the head of the pancreas. So second part of the duodenum is very very important, as it is the site of the release of digestive enzymes. Coming to the posterior relations, It is entirely peritoneal and it related to the intersurface of the right kidney, hilum of the right kidney with the right renal vessels, pelvis of the right ureter and right psoas major muscle. So these are the posterior relations. Again, you can reiterate there: hilum of the right kidney, right renal vessels, right edge of inferior vena cava, right psoas major. So these are the posterior relations that you can see, the hilar structures. And coming to the interior of the second part, it is very important because there is the opening of the hepatopancreatic duct. So it shows the following features: circular folds, major duodenal papillae, minor duodenal papillae, plica semicircularis, plica longitudinalis. When you open to see the interior of the second part, you can notice there these all are circular folds to increase the surface area for the absorption. These are the modification along with villi and microvilli. You can notice there, you can see the minor duodenal papilla and major duodenal papilla, plica semicircularis, plica longitudinalis. In the minor duodenal papilla, there is opening of the accessory pancreatic duct. In the major duodenal papilla, there is opening of the main pancreatic duct along with the common bile duct. So coming to the animation here, let us see what are related to the second part of the duodenum. You can see there the greater omentum and transverse colon hide the duodenum, whereas liver and gallbladder hide the first part of the duodenum. Remainder of duodenum is under cover of the greater omentum and transverse colon. Once you open the abdomen, you don't see the duodenum because it is retroperitoneal structure. So you can see here the relations. Until we have seen the gallbladder, liver, transverse colon and coils of intestine. Posteriorly you can see the kidney, renal vessels, ureter, and here only you will see right psoas major muscle coming from the posterior abdominal wall. So these are the relations of the posterior surface of the second part of the duodenum. You can see the hilum there, and as you come here, you can see here the head of the pancreas is here with the anastomosis between the first and second part. On the right side you will see right colic flexure. You can notice the second part there. So already we have seen that epiploic foramina was there, that is the lesser omentum. Again you can notice here the structures in the right free margin, the common bile duct, the hepatic artery there, and these will continue behind that. Okay, that's why we are seeing them. And if you reflect the duodenum, second part of the duodenum, yes, here you can notice the common bile duct coming and opening here. Here you are seeing the head of the pancreas, that is the common bile duct, and here you can see the gastroduodenal branch supplying the stomach and the first part of the duodenum. You can notice the inferior vena cava here, that is the head of the pancreas. So these are the posterior relations of the duodenum second part. And you can see in the interior it is thrown into circular folds. There you can notice here in this area there will be opening of the ducts, major and minor duodenal papilla. This is the common bile duct, pancreatic duct. They form a hepatopancreatic ampulla. Elevation, ampulla means dilatation or elevation, that you can notice there, and you can see. And inside you can notice there is the opening here, minor duodenal papilla and major duodenal papilla. Plica longitudinalis, plica semicircularis. You can notice there, if you zoom here, there is the opening of the duct. And coming to the third part, that is the horizontal part, it runs from the right side of the lower body of third lumbar vertebra on the right side, angled slightly superiorly across the left, and passes in front of the inferior vena cava and abdominal aorta, the big vessels of the abdomen. You can notice here. So this is the third part, most superficial part of the duodenum. It is closely related to the anterior abdominal wall, remember that. And it ends with the fourth part on the right side of the abdominal aorta. Here you will see the part of the inferior vena cava here. So it passes in front of the big vessels of the abdomen. Coming to the relations, anteriorly it is peritoneal, except here anteriorly it is crossed by the root of mesentery, which is suspending the coils of jejunum and ileum, and related to these superior mesenteric vessels. There, superior mesenteric vessels run in front of the third part. Why they run, that you will understand when you study the embryology and Medigat rotation. That we will see in the later part. Here you can see the anterior relations, what you can notice here. The superior mesenteric vessels, root of mesentery, and coils of jejunum and ileum. Posteriorly it is related to the big vessels, already we have discussed, abdominal aorta and inferior vena cava, right ureter and right psoas major muscle coming from the posterior abdominal wall. Because duodenum is retroperitoneal structure, it is related to the posterior abdominal wall structures, remember that. So it is related to all these kind of structures, right psoas major, right gonadal vessels, right ureter, inferior vena cava and abdominal aorta, and also the inferior mesenteric artery, which takes origin from the abdominal aorta behind this one, and above it is related to the head of the pancreas, below coils of jejunum and ileum. So these are the relations of the third part, and if you try to understand here the anatomy of the duodenum, so first let us draw the abdominal vessels, abdominal aorta and inferior vena cava, and here you have the duodenum, first part, second part, third part and fourth part, and here you have the kidney, right suprarenal gland, and within the concavity you have the pancreas with the head, neck. Along from the head you will see uncinate process, and here you will see superior mesenteric artery, superior mesenteric vein running in front of the third part, and you will also notice the liver and gallbladder there going in front of the duodenum. So this is the duodenum. So here you will see the part of the liver, and underneath that you will see gallbladder. Here you will see right kidney, right suprarenal gland behind. Here you will see the pancreas, and behind that you will see the abdominal aorta and also inferior vena cava. Portal vein will be formed here behind the neck of the pancreas. So you will see a lot of structures, and you will see here the psoas major, the right ureter, and from these vessels you will see right renal vessel going to the right kidney and all behind that, and you'll also see the opening of the common bile duct opening into second part of the duodenum along with the pancreatic duct where they open, that is called as major duodenal papilla, and accessory pancreas duct opens in the minor duodenal papilla. It's around 8 centimeter from the pylorus. Major is around 10 centimeter from the pylorus, and you will see plica semicircularis and plica longitudinalis within the interior of the second part of the duodenum. So here you are trying to see and understand the different relations. So anterior it is related to the transverse colon, mesocolon, coils of intestine, liver, gallbladder, whereas posterior is related to the posterior abdominal wall structures like kidney, right kidney and suprarenal gland, and you'll also see the psoas major muscle, right ureter, and you will see the big vessels, inferior vena cava like this, and abdominal aorta with the superior mesenteric vessels and all. So here you will notice like this. This is the duodenum, and within the concavity you are seeing the pancreas, and these big vessels are going in front of the superior mesenteric vessel going in front of the third part of the duodenum, because during development when midgut returns to the abdominal cavity from the physiological hernia, the duodenum goes behind the superior mesenteric vessels. That's why superior mesenteric vessel is running in front of the third part. That is what you are observing. So remember that anteriorly you are seeing the liver and gallbladder with the common bile duct, and you will also see the transverse colon here, right colic flexure transverse colon is going in front of the second part. So in this diagram I am trying to explain you the different relations. You can show the relations of all the part in one diagram. So try to understand that relations of the duodenum. So coming to the animation here related to the third part, you can see here greater omentum transverse colon with mesocolon is covering the entire duodenum. When I take out them, here you can see here we are isolating the structures related only to the third part. You can see there above it is related to the head of the pancreas. Below you can see the coils of jejunum and ileum which are mobile, and you can also see there superior pancreatic inferior pancreaticoduodenal vessels, inferior pancreaticoduodenal vessels coming from the superior mesenteric vessels. You can notice there coils of jejunum and ileum, and behind it is related to the big vessels, that is inferior vena cava on the right side, abdominal aorta on the left side, and in front it is related to superior mesenteric vessels and root of mesentery. You can notice there that is the pancreas. You can notice that is superior mesenteric artery and superior mesenteric vein. If you take out that part of the pancreas related to the L2 vertebra, here you can see the origin of the superior mesenteric artery coming from the abdominal aorta, and you can also see that is splenic vein. You can notice there splenic vein, superior mesenteric vein forming portal vein, and behind that you are seeing the inferior mesenteric vein. You can notice here this is the pancreas, and you can see superior mesenteric vessels, artery and vein. Artery is on the left side, vein is on the right side. Here you can see that is the ancient process of the pancreas. This is the third part. It is crossed by the root of mesentery containing these superior mesenteric vessels. Don't think supramesenteric vessels nakedly cross the anterior part of the third part of duodenum. They are in the mesenteric fold of peritoneum, suspending the coils of jejunum and ileum with neurovascular bundle. So coming to the last part, that is fourth part. It's an around inch in length. It starts from the left side of the aorta, runs superiorly and obliquely towards left side, and lies lateral to the upper border of the second lumbar vertebra. So this is the oblique part, and it turns anteroinferiorly at the DJ flexure to continue as the coils of the jejunum. Coming to the relations of the fourth part, you are noticing here anteriorly you can see the transverse colon, and on the left side you are seeing the left kidney. You can see there. So this is the part of the left kidney you are seeing. There is a left kidney anteriorly related to the transverse colon. So you can understand the relations here, transverse colon and mesocolon, and to the left you are seeing the kidney, and to the right side you are seeing the supramesenteric vessels origin and also uncinate process of the pancreas. Above it is related to the body of the pancreas like this. This is the pancreas. So above body of the pancreas, to the right side supramesenteric vessels, and posterior is related to the left side structures, left sympathetic chain, left gonadal vessels, left psoas, left renal vessels, left crus of diaphragm. So it is towards the left, that's why it is related to the all the left sided structures. You can again just reiterate here: left sympathetic chain, inferior mesenteric vein, left gonadal vessels that you can see, and left psoas major muscle. And coming to the suspensory ligament of Treads or suspensory muscles of the duodenum, you can notice here it is suspending the DJ flexure. That's why it is called as suspensory ligament of Treads or suspensory muscle of duodenum. It is a fibromuscular group suspending DJ flexure from the right crus of diaphragm. Above it is connected to the right crus of diaphragm. Below it is connected to the posterior surface of the DJ flexure, where fourth part of the duodenum continues as the jejunum. And you can notice there it is related to the right crus of the diaphragm. And this group includes the striated muscles, that is voluntary muscles, elastic fibers, and some involuntary muscles in the lower part. So it's a fibromuscular group having the striated, non-striated, and elastic fibers, and suspending the DJ flexure. So it fixes the DJ flexure and keeps it from being dragged on by the weight of the loops of small intestine, which is suspended by the mesentery, and it also acts as a significant landmark in the radiological diagnosis of the incomplete rotation or malrotation of the small intestine, because it is a fixed part. So it can be used as a surgical or radiological landmark. You can notice here the relations of the fourth part. If you see here, you can see anteriorly it is related to the transverse colon and coils of intestine there, and you can see the vessels coming from supramesenteric vessels are lying in front of the fourth part about the body of the, and towards the right side here you can see right side, this is the fourth part you are seeing. This is the fourth part of the duodenum. Above again body of duodenum, to the right supramesenteric vessels and uncinate process of pancreas, and to the left side left kidney, behind inferior mesenteric vein, left sympathetic chain and all. And here you can see the suspensory ligament of Treads. Suspensory ligament of Treads suspending the DJ flexure, attached above to the right crus of diaphragm, below to the posterior surface of DJ flexure. So it fixes the duodenum. And next, coming to the duodenal recesses or foci. In the region of the DJ flexure, there are some small pockets of peritoneum. You can see there, these are the duodenal recesses, superior, inferior, para and retroduodenal recess. These are the pockets of peritoneum, potential sites of the retroperitoneal hernia, and they may lead to strangulation because of these small peritoneal pouches. The superior duodenal recess, it is located in the left upper end of the fourth part of the duodenum behind superior duodenal fold. You can see there, superior duodenal recess with its mouth directed inferiorly, and you can see the inferior duodenal recess. It is located a little below the superior recess behind the inferior duodenal peritoneal fold with its mouth directed upwards. And here you can notice the paraduodenal and retroduodenal recesses. Retro means behind, it lies behind the fourth part. The para means on the side. Its lowest when present, it is located to the left of the fourth part of duodenum behind the paraduodenal fold of the peritoneum with orifice facing medially or towards the right side. It includes the inferior mesenteric vein in its free edge, retroduodenal recess. It is the largest of the duodenal recess, most commonly prone for herniation of the contents. It is having the mouth directed to the left side. Coming to the blood supply, see, duodenum is a composite in origin. So this much part is derived from foregut, this much part is derived from the hindgut. So it has a blood supply both from the arteries of the foregut and midgut. You can see there, superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, branch of gastroduodenal, or it is which is a branch of the common hepatic, which is a branch of celiac trunk. So superior pancreaticoduodenal artery is a branch of celiac trunk, which is the artery of foregut, and below you can see the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. It is a branch of superior mesenteric artery, which is the artery of midgut. So duodenum blood supply will indicate the composite development of duodenum because it is derived from both foregut and midgut, and along the curvature there is an anastomosis between the superior and inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. Lymphatic drainage, it drains into pancreaticoduodenal lymph nodes, which finally drain into celiac and superior mesenteric lymph nodes because they run along with the arteries. The superior celiac trunk and superior mesenteric artery, artery of foregut and midgut, and finally drained by cisterna chyli. Nerve supply, sympathetic fibers come from T6 to T9 thoracic spinal nerves, and also the vagi, which form the plexus in the coats of the small intestine. And here you can notice the duodenum is covered here. The duodenum is covered by the gutteromentum and transverse colon. When you reflect here, you are seeing, yes, this much is transverse mesocolon, suspending the transverse colon here, and here you will see the superior mesenteric vessels, and these all are coils of intestine that you are noticing. So once you take out the mesocolon and per the root of the mesentery, you are noticing the superior mesenteric artery there, which is the artery of midgut. Superior mesenteric artery runs in front of the third part of duodenum, giving the different branches. Consider running in front of the third part of duodenum. It gives jejunal-ileal branches, middle colic artery to the transverse colon. You can see the ileocolic branch, which supplies the ileum, terminal part of the ileum and ascending colon. Right colic artery supplies ascending colon. Middle colic artery supplies the right 2/3 of the transverse colon, because all these are derived from the midgut. You should understand the derivatives of the midgut, and you can notice the pattern of supply of the branches of the supramesenteric artery, which is the artery of midgut. So you can notice there, these all arteries, they form these marginal anastomosis or vascular arcades in the fold of the mesentery. So coming to the development of duodenum. So duodenum develop from these two sources, foregut and midgut. The proximal half from the foregut, distal half from the midgut. So first and second part up to the second part up to the opening of common bile duct derived from the foregut. Second part of the duodenum below the opening of common bile duct, third and fourth part develop from the midgut. So during development, it is suspended by the fold called as mesoduodenum from the post-abdominal wall. It lies in the sagittal plane. It lies in the median plane, and the loop is, as I already told you, it is in sagittal plane, and apex is the junction between the foregut and midgut, where there is opening of a common bile duct there. And phases in the development of duodenum. So you have seen the primitive duodenal loop with mesoduodenum. These are the three phases: rotation, fixation, and axial rotation. These three phases happen in the development of definitive duodenum. Rotation, the clockwise right side rotation of the stomach, and because of the return of the herniated intestinal loops, the duodenal loop fall onto the right side. It is in the sagittal plane, but it moves towards the right side because of the return of the herniated contents during physiological hernia, and it becomes fixed to the posterior abdominal wall by the process of zygosis, where you can see in the striated lines there, and you can notice here, this is how the duodenum, this is the horizontal section. It is how from peritoneal it becomes retroperitoneal, except the proximal half of the first part. And axial rotation, here the duodenum undergoes axial rotation along its vertical axis, resulting in movement of ventral and dorsal pancreatic buds. You can see the dorsal pancreatic bud coming from the foregut, whereas the ventral pancreatic bud coming from the junction between the foregut and midgut. These ventral and dorsal pancreatic bud, they move towards each other, resulting in axial rotation, or you can say axial rotation of duodenum helps in the movement of ventral and dorsal pancreatic buds, forming the pancreas. So this is the rotation, axial rotation. So ventral bud joins with the dorsal pancreatic bud. That's why you'll have two ducts there. But the mesoduodenum persists in relation to the duodenum adjacent to pylorus, resulting in duodenal cap on the X-rays that we see. Barium meal X-ray, contrast X-ray. And the arterial supply of the duodenum reiterates the composite development. The proximal half is supplied by the artery of the foregut, that is celiac trunk. Distal half is by the supramesenteric artery, which is the artery of midgut. So they may ask you, correlate the development of duodenum with the blood supply. So that will reiterate the composite development. Coming to the congenital anomalies of duodenum, duodenal stenosis, it is due to incomplete recanalization, and duodenal atresia, failure of recanalization, and it always occurs distal to the opening of the common bile duct, and the infant will present with the vomiting, bilious vomiting. In case of pyloric stenosis, you will have non-bilious vomiting, but this happens distal to common bile duct. So there will be bilious vomiting, duodenal atresia, and on radiology you will see double bubble sign that we have already discussed. On the left side you will see the bubble formed by the stomach, and on the right side you will see the duodenum. You can see here during development on the right side you are seeing the right side of the screen, you are seeing the definitive positions of the different parts of the small intestine. On the left side you are seeing the foregut, midgut, and hindgut. In the foregut, the yellow color represents the duodenum, the light green color jejunal loops, the blue color the ascending colon. This is how the midgut rotation happens during development, resulting in the peritoneal position of duodenum. You can see there the transverse colon is going in front of the second part. You can notice there, this is how the rotation happens. Total there is a 270-degree rotation of the midgut during development, resulting in the adult position of the small intestine and the colon, which are derived from the midgut and hindgut. You can notice there, that's why you are seeing the transverse colon in front of the second part and superior mesenteric vessels in front of the third part. Coming to the histology of duodenum, as you know, small intestine is the longest component of the digestive tract, measures around 6 meters, divided into duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Duodenum is the most widest and fixed part. You can notice there. And if you see here, you can see these layers there from inside to outside: mucosa, submucosa, musculus externa, and serosa. As we have already seen the gross anatomy, there is nothing much to discuss here. Jejunum is around 2.5 meter long and consists of the upper 2/5 of the small intestine. Ileum is the longest part, 3.5 meters, forms the lower 3/5 of the coils of intestine. And the function of small intestine is mainly the absorption of nutrients, which are the end products of the digestion. And the chyme from the stomach enters the duodenum, so acidic chyme. And there are some modifications you see in the small intestine to increase the surface area. Those are plica circularis, villi, and microvilli. These modifications increase the surface area. Plica circularis, also known as walls of Kirkring. These are permanent transverse fold containing the fold of mucosa and submucosa, whereas rugae in the stomach were temporary, whereas the folds in the small intestine are permanent. Plica circularis, permanent folds, whereas villi are the finger-like projections of the only mucosa, and they contain the blood vessels, lacteal, that is lymphatic duct, for the absorption of the end products of the fat digestion. You can notice that villi will be there. So as noted, they are projections of mucosa, whereas circular folds are projections of mucosa and submucosa. They contain the core of loose connective tissue covered by simple columnar epithelium, lamina propria, blood vessels, lacteal, fold of muscularis mucosa. So remember that for villi are folds of mucosa, whereas circular folds are fold of mucosa and submucosa. Why these are there? To increase surface area. And on the cellular level, individual cells also have some modifications called as microvilli, finger-like projections of the apical surface of the cytoplasm. And along with the columnar cells, you also see goblet cells, Paneth cells, and enteroendocrine cells, which have different functions. You can notice here on the extreme left side, you are seeing the enterocyte, goblet cell, Paneth cell, and these all involved in the epithelium. Coming to the histology of duodenum proper, the mucosa is having the simple columnar epithelium and villi, tongue-shaped villi. Submucosa shows Brunner's glands. These are mucosal glands. Why these are there in duodenum? To neutralize the acidic chyme coming from the stomach, so that the pancreatic enzymes can act in the alkaline environment. Remember that. Submucosal glands you will see only in the esophagus and duodenum, in the entire GIT. Coming to the duodenal ulcers, which are very common in the first part due to end arteries. Duodenal injuries. The third part of the duodenum is most susceptible because it is superficial and related to the in front of the vertebral column and anteabdominal wall. And you also see duodenal diverticula, which may be congenital and occur between the openings of the ducts and vessels going through the walls of the duodenum. So that's about duodenum. Hope you understood. Thank you very much. Please suggest your advices in the comment box. Thank you.